Hello friends, today is my 16th presentation on the very interesting topic of how to assign roles to designers for performing business activities. It is in the context of ethics in the real estate and hospitality industry. However, the concepts can be used in any industry for any type of activities. What is included in this presentation is the overview of the statutory landscape, because focus here is on the statutory activities. uh, Four steps for assigning the roles which are common for any type of activities. First step in focusing on building segregation of duties, how to ensure segregation of duties. Second step is developing of the profiles, also named as authorization profiles. Next slide is for the template for developing the profiles, and the third step is understanding the concept of the roles. Fourth step is attaching the profiles to the roles, and advantages for attaching profiles to the roles and future references. Now, overview of the strategy landscape in is in the construction industry is that there are 56 key strategy activities which have been identified in my handbook to be performed by the building designers. Out of the total 113 key strategy activities which need to be performed by all the functions, like including other functions like materials, procurement, contracts, physical construction, accounts, etc., etc., for a mid-sized construction project. Now, for these 56 activities, these are primarily for architects relevant 37, for interior designer 9, and for MEP designers 10. In the MEP designers, I have indicated 10 because only two packages have been indicated, and this can grow in case the number of packages gets added. The packages included here are electricals and air conditioning, whereas in case you add processes like packages like related to the pollution, etc., plumbing, firefighting, etc., the number of activities will grow up. Uh, Now, these 56 activities for understanding pertain to five key statutory processes, which are meeting RERA compliances, meeting statutory regulations and taxation obligations, obtaining the licenses, approvals, and maintaining statutory records for the statutory acts, complying with the IGST taxation matters, that is goods and services tax matters, and deducting of the TDS, tax deduction at source on the consulting services. The narration of these 113 activities which I am talking about is given in my book, handbook, in annexure 21B, and which also this book also carries a listing of the 48 key direct statutory acts which are applicable to the construction industry, and plus 34 indirect statutory acts which are applicable to the supporting functions like finance or corporate service or HR, etc., etc., in the annexure 8 and 9, which you can refer to from my book. Now, steps required for assigning the roles. Primarily, there are four steps required to be performed specifically in the ERP environment for assigning the roles. These are: number one, building of the segregation of duties concept, abbreviated as SOD, to avoid conflict of roles. Number two, developing of the profiles, also named as authorization profiles. Third is the understanding of the concept of the roles, and fourth is attaching the profiles to the roles. Through this presentation, though this presentation prepared in the, as I mentioned, in the context of statutory activities, exactly similar four steps need to be performed for assigning roles for core design activities or the supporting activities. By supporting activities, I mean that like budgeting or MIS making or document management system or developing tables, configuration tables, master data tables, etc., etc., to be performed by the designers. And the total number of activities are estimated to be 818 in my handbook. Now, the first step is the building the segregation of duties. The concept related to the SOD or segregation duties are captured in my earlier YouTube presentation titled as Avoiding Conflicting Roles Assignment by Using SOD Concept, and posted on 17th December 82, which cover broadly five activities as below. One is identifying parameters for developing the SOD, designing the SOD template, software programming of the SOD template, populating the SOD template with access rights, plan, and effecting any changes promptly in the strategy activities or core activity functions, responsible level, and position. More details of this can be found in the YouTube reference which I have given here in this slide. Now, second step is developing profiles, also known as authorization profiles. Well, let's understand first of all what is the meaning of profile. This in the ERP environment, authorization profiles mean these are the things which carry or have embedded authorization objects attached to the workflow or transaction code for the activity, which is core or statutory or neither, or and also carry the fields related to the master data table or config tables or fields relevant to the document. Now, separate authorization profiles therefore need to be developed vis-a-vis following. One, for creating or initiating a activity. Second is the editing or modifying the activity, in this case strategy activity, the deleting of the activity, viewing of the activity, and approval and execution of the activity. A template for generating authorization profiles for strategy activities is given in this lecture 27C in my handbook, wherein instructions for developing profiles are given for two strategy processes having 6 strategy activities inside. These two processes are being shared in my next 2 slides as well. Profiles need to be generated using sophisticated ERP software like SAP, as these carry several authorization objects at the granularity level. Uh, Now, steps required for assigning roles. Continuing. Now, I'm giving example of process one. Let's talk about process one, which is meeting the RERA compliances. That means Real Estate Regulation and Development Act. The four activities listed are given below. Of course, these statutory activities are in the context of the Indian environments. Number one is obtaining sanction plan approval before construction starts. Number two is obtaining certification of the adherence to the sanction plans during construction. Three is on completion obtaining the occupation certificate. Fourth is on completion obtaining the completion certificate from the statutory bodies. These for these activities, 24 files have been illustrated for these and coded as PS 00001 to PS 000020 sorry, PS 00020. The profile code numbering is only for understanding, and designers can change it as per the software scheme being used by them. Similarly, for the process 2, meeting statutory regulations and taxation obligations and filing key returns, the two activities listed are, for example, publishing on the RERA website project-wise details, and number 2, filing annual returns as per the Building and Other Construction Workers Act 1996, again in the context of the Indian environments. These 10 profiles have been illustrated for about two activities and coded as PS 00251 and PS 00260. Profile code numbering, as mentioned earlier, is simply usually driven by the profile generating software I talked about, and the ones reflected in the presentation is simply for understanding of the professionals. Designers can, of course, certainly change these and configure these as per the software schemes used by them. Now, here is a template which gives how to develop the profile or authorization profile for the first activity of obtaining sanction plan approval before construction starts. Now, let's understand this table. While the first row contains the profile numbers proposed by me, the second row, it contains what key rights need to be embedded with this with respective profile. These are for first one is column 2 is creating, second column is column number 3 is editing or modifying, third is deleting, fourth one is viewing, and fifth one is approving. I mean, who should be doing developing initiating this sanction plans, who should be modifying it, who should be deleting it, who can view this, and who can finally approve this before submission. The function assigned in this case, typical case of obtaining sanction plan approval before construction, in the column 2, if you please see that I have given two. One is design of architect and design of architect and design of MEP designers. Now, the edit can be done by the project legal and secretarial team from the legal perspective. Deletion, of course, have left with the design of architect, because normally these people, designers, architects, they submit these instead of both bodies, architect and MEP designer submitting it. Fourth one is the review of this submission. This sanction plans is usually given. View rights are given to the both design of architect teams and design of MEP teams, and in fact architects interior design team also, and viewing can be also be given to the project team also. This is just for an example. And approval for the submission of these plans it must be done by the top management, whether it is the HOD of the project or the directors or the promoters, because this is very sensitive. The success of the project depends on these approvals. The third row, next row is which are the team assigned and their team numbers in this template. In the column number 2, I have indicated architects and projects, all architects for all the projects, and MEP designers for the relevant packages who can do, who can initiate this work. The legal team for the licensing. There are a couple of teams. There are a number of teams within the legal function. So what I am indicating is that legal team, which is dedicated for the obtaining licenses and approvals. They can edit or modify it, and the deletion should be here. I'm indicating is that preferably by the risk coordinator from within the design of architect team. Usually a risk coordinator is to be appointed by respective teams, and viewing is architect for all projects, MEP for all packages, and here I am suggesting that approval this is viewed by this project head out of the total tap management team. Now employee levels, I am just suggesting that since this is a very sensitive activity to be approved, so I am just recommending mostly higher level in the creating and editing profile, and middle level for the deletion and viewing, and for approval of course higher one. And the position who can approve that, I am hypothetically proposing general manager or senior level person for creating, and editing modifying can be done by the same general manager level. Deletion I am just putting once the by the senior manager relevant to this design of architect function, and viewing by senior manager and project heads. So this template, as you will appreciate, it carries very clearly the functions which are assigned, the teams which are assigned, the employee level, junior or senior, middle, or and the position who can do these transactions of creating, editing, deleting, viewing, and approving. Third step required is understanding the concept of the roles. Role means what a person, professional person, here a designer, is authorized to do as per the few examples below. For example, developing a sanction drawing or seeking statutory sanction is one simple role. Integration of the developed sanction drawings with the say MEP design is another role, which is relatively complex role. Obtaining sanctions from the statutory authorities is yet another example of a complex role. Now, a complex role can have many simple roles, simple profiles attached to it, number of profiles attached to it. A role can have one or more combination of profiles, as I mentioned. For example, for 56 statutory activities, 280 profiles will need to be developed at the rate of 5 per activity. And what I am proposing that for expansion for more statutory activities, let's plan 2000 profiles to be relevant for only statutory activities. Now you can imagine if there are 800 activities, how many number of profiles will need to be developed? 5 times that. Now next step continuing is that attaching profiles to the roles. The number of profiles can run into hundreds or thousands, whereas the number of designers like architects, interior and MEP designers in an organization limited, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, etc. Not very large number, unless until is the business of this organization is designing itself. I am talking about the construction organizations. Therefore, for these thousands of profiles to be attached to a limited number of designers is the issue. It is therefore essential that it is very prudent that before the final attachment of the profiles to the roles is done, prior thorough testing is done to see that statutory design activities are carried out smoothly based on the competency assessment at different hierarchical levels and positions by the person who will perform these roles. Now, this, as I was saying, this process is equally applicable for performing all 108 and 118 activities, which include core, statutory, and supporting activities. Now, the proposed 3 stages for doing this testing are number 1, attaching profiles to the roles in the development computer server in the ERP environments. Then test number 2, testing the roles in the test servers by the ERP design teams and the designers. And number 3, once these have been tested and found out to be satisfactory, uploading the roles on the production server for implementation after the approval or the testing of the roles, so that there is no any discontinuity of the activity, or to avoid any activity not getting performed. This is a very typical issue which comes because in case the roles are not assigned properly, the profiles are not attached to properly to the roles, sometimes some of the design activities may not get done. What is the advantage of attaching profiles to the roles? The roles are assigned to different positions based on the skill level rather than on the individuals, as the process is independent of the individual named employees. As you have experienced, as you have seen that in this, there is no individual person named employee required in this case of ERP environments. Now, the advantage is that when a team member designer leaves or gets transferred or gets promoted, the process of assigning the roles is much simpler and faster. As ERP and IT team can be instructed by the HOD of the design function or the promoters to attach these predefined granular level profiles to the different roles. Now, next is digitalization process also contributes to the design excellence, as roles are assigned based on the competence level rather than individually named employees, and therefore this will avoid assigning of the roles in a skewed manner, and highlight such skewing if it happens, or it will eliminate the concept of the power centers. Since profile assignment to the roles is done digitally, the probability of the conflicts gets minimized through the implementation of the segregation duties concept, as is evident from the design of the SOD template which was shown in this. Now, digitally assigned roles get very well defined, and which facilitates smoother functioning, easier traceability, and higher efficiency of the design function. Now you can refer to chapter 11 and lecture 27C in my handbook for details on the aspects covered in the presentation. And of course, there are lectures 26C, 28C, 29C for the core activities, for the configuration tables, and for the master data tables also, where you can see many of these examples. In addition to this lecture 26 7C, which is dedicated for the strategy activities. Now these are available in my book entitled Ethics in the Real Estate and Hospitality Industry Volume 1 for architecture, interior and MEP designers. Now there is a blog which you can refer also, defining how to blog details defining roles for architects, interior designers and MEP designers for performing strategy activities. Of course, you can refer to some articles on the Facebook or LinkedIn, and this book is available on the paperback in amazon.in, or Kindle version in the amazon.com also. Thank you very much.